I had a really interesting talk yesterday with my friend Rob on the subject of introspection. Recorded the call and it's already been uploaded, and I would definitely encourage you to have a watch of that. It lasts about 50 minutes. Not necessarily for what I say, but for what Rob says and his words of wisdom, really, regarding the crucial concept of introspection, particularly at a time when our external worlds are difficult. You know, introspection, the ability to be introspective, and the practice of introspection, self-reflection, becomes so much more important. It really does. I actually feel that the more the suffering, the deeper the introspection, and the easier it is to find deep meaning in life. And there is certainly a relationship, I would say, between suffering and meaning. It's to what extent do we want to understand our suffering. So have a little watch of that video. It's the previous one. I uploaded it this morning. It's really interesting. But what I wanted to do today was to reflect really on the conversation I had with Rob, and to talk about two aspects that I've been reflecting on myself this morning, and they are number one is identity and how attached we are to an identity, and number two is service to others. So I just want to quickly talk to you about my reflections on those two fundamentals that kind of Rob reminded me of yesterday, really. So identity. It's hard not to get wrapped up in an identity of self. And an identity of self really is, you know, is either a belief or an idea, I think, that's been imposed upon you by another individual or an authority. And it'll usually be an authority or an individual that you deem to be probably worthy of being influenced by. And it's to what extent are we aware that idea, that authority, that belief system, that individual who is influencing us has that belief that we then develop, and that identity that we then develop, serves us, you know, serves us as an individual, and thereby serves society as well. Because as we know, well, as I know, I passionately believe that a healthy society is made up of healthy individuals. So it was really useful speaking to Rob yesterday to really let that thought permeate about to what extent do I identify with certain ideas and belief systems. You know, Carl Jung said people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And of course you can have an idea, but I think what he was getting at was that the all-consuming power of ideas, and how they have this ability to be able to possess a person into thinking a certain way, thinking the way that the idea wants you, or the ideology is a better word, wants you to think. And then the question is, who is that? Is that belief, is that way of thinking, is that way of looking at the world, is that way of looking at yourself serving you? So identity is something, of course, you know, identity is important in some ways, of course it is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that important. And we certainly should be aware, I would suggest, of what it is that we identify with, particularly in this age now that we live in, 21st century Western societies, whereby labels and identities are used to divide people. Or maybe I should say, people let identities and labels, particularly group identities and labels, divide themselves. So they allow themselves to be divided. And why? Why? What, when all is said and done, does that matter? You know, in this world of infinite possibility, infinite perception, depth, breadth and beauty, in this world where not one person who's currently living on this planet knows a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of what there is to know, why have so many of us allowed ourselves to become wrapped up in these identities? Who's it serving? And who may be pulling the strings? An even greater question. So if not identity, then what? I mean, I don't think I would ever say I identify as this, I identify as another, but I'm sure, well, no, I know that I do find identity important, but I try not to be enslaved by the idea of identity, because in identifying with something we are conforming, I would suggest in some way, conforming to something that somebody else wants us to conform to. And you always have to ask yourself, why is that? So if not identity, then what? Well, I would say values. We did briefly touch on yesterday in the chat. We mentioned football, and because something, I would say I am an Everton fan. That's my team. I support Everton. And football's quite tribalistic, actually. And it's a bit of a conundrum, football. Is it okay? Well, a lot of my content is around not becoming tribalised, and is around, you know, this permeation of different creative thoughts and ideas, and taking, you know, incorporating, you know, groups and different ethoses and all this type of thing together, and very skeptical of tribalism I am. But the more I think about it, the more I think, well, it could be the values that you see, that maybe I see in a football team, which is the values of, maybe I like it, the togetherness that it brings, and the friendship that it engenders, and all this type of thing. But that's just one example. What I'm saying is, if there's any areas of your life where maybe you are attached to identity too much, maybe consider, well, how can you redefine that identity as something coming from a place of value, of values? So are you valuing something, or are you identifying with it? Because if you're just identifying with it without valuing it, and, you know, you are allowing that identity to dictate your life for you, rather than choosing to imprint your own closely defined and well cultivated life values on your experience, then that's a choice that we can make, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's really interesting, that relationship between identity and values, and making sure where we can to not get wrapped up in identity, to understand where our identity comes from and what it means, if anything. A lot of the time it doesn't mean anything at all, but paying more attention to what values we want to live by. You know, so for me it's truth, freedom, courage, authenticity, and then a whole load of others as well that actually I'm not doing very well with. But so that's values and identity. And then the other thing that Rob talked about was the service of others, and about how true fulfilment is really only arrived at via helping others. And how true is this? I mean, I can say this because, or I can see this because I think I've spent a large part of my life being pretty selfish, pretty lazy as well. And there's been reasons for that. And, you know, part of my mission in life is to become less lazy and become less selfish. I'm still learning, you know. But one thing I have learned is that is true. The fact that true fulfilment is derived via in the service of others, in helping others. You know, that's what I try and do with this YouTube channel. It always gives me a sense of satisfaction when I do a video, particularly when I feel like I've done a good video. I feel like this is one of my better videos actually, and I've put it out there and I get a good response, because I feel, well, okay, I've helped somebody to understand a situation that they're in. I've helped maybe somebody to peel off another layer of their conditioning. I've helped maybe somebody to see something from a different perspective, maybe help somebody to see more clearly how, you know, how they, what their relationship with their world is. And, you know, we can have all the money and all the material goods in the world, that we going the wrong way. Keep going this way. I'm going to the farm shop to pick up some eggs and garlic. I think I need. I'll see what else they've got that looks nice. So what was I saying? Yeah, you can have all the money, all the material possessions you want in the world, and this sounds like a cliche, but it won't make you happy, and it won't. If you think about the times that you are happy, when is it? It is when you do a good deed for someone, isn't it? It's when you're nice to someone, and in being nice and in doing something for someone, going out of your way to do something for somebody else, I think it just triggers that spirit of connection, emotional connection that human beings need. So why is it that the service of others is crucial to, fundamental to our own happiness and fulfilment and to the health of society? It's because it's ingrained and imprinted into human civilization and existence. You know, whilst we've seen much evidence in the last couple of years of, you know, the not so very good side of humanity, there is another side to it which needs connection, which needs community. And what is a community? Surely that's a collective of individuals and a collection of individuals who are forming a community based on a certain set of skills and values and helping each other. You know, that is what a good, healthy society is, isn't it? It's one whereby the individuals within it contribute to a healthy, to the health of that society by their individual gifts. So I think there's something deeply psychological about it, actually. It's quite difficult to explain, but so just to finish on, at a time where I know a lot of people still are, I don't mean still are, but a lot of people we are living in revolutionary times. We're living in times of deep uncertainty, and there is great danger. There is opportunity as well, as I've remarked. If we choose to seize it, we can. But I've learned 2020 was the hardest year of my life. Yeah, I derived a deeper sense of meaning in that year than all the other years put together. You know, and I think it was because external circumstances were in such, you know, turmoil, and they were so turbulent and difficult and uncertain. So we can choose to do that deep introspection. Let's remember, be careful what we identify with, and definitely, where we can, be of service to others. Pretty simple concepts when you get into them, really, really deep. You know, I'm grateful for the chat with Rob yesterday, just to remind myself. So I thought, well, whilst I have pondered on that and, you know, got that clarity back again as a result of that chat with Rob, I thought, well, let's try to impart, you know, my thoughts to you guys and see what you think, and hopefully get you to ask yourselves some questions as well. So do let me know what you think about what I've talked about today, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, check the video out that I did with Rob yesterday. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, I'll speak to you all soon. Have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.